Hey guys, Vanessa here, alcoholic, and I just wanted to jump on really quickly because I got something in the mail and I wanted to share a little bit about how meaningful it is to me. So, before I tell you what it is, I just want to briefly recap my relationship with religion. So, even though I grew up culturally Catholic, clearly I would do that. I come from a Mexican family. It's what we do. Did my first communion. I went to church. We did the whole thing. Beautiful religion, clearly flawed in numerous ways. And also, I have a deep awe and respect for it. And there's a lot of Catholicism that still lives within me that I can have this sacredness and this holiness and this mystery and wonder about the world at large and about God and other people because of how I grew up in my Catholic faith. And I don't go to a Catholic church now. I still love the Rosary. I still love the Virgin Mary. I still love a lot of that beautiful tradition that's there and a lot of the mystery and the meditation and that connection, just that deep reverence and honor for God. It's very romantic to me in a lot of ways, in ways that I don't typically acknowledge or interact in my other relationships. And that being said, it is also, there's a lot of things that are very patriarchal and can be very, I think, not as close to God as it should be. And I think is more a reflection of humans trying to control relationship with God than it is an actual relationship with God. A lot of the rituals that we think that we just go through and do, we can use in replacement of an actual connection and relationship to God. And that's where things like that can get a little bit tricky because that's never what those things were intended for. These are just ways, much like how I was describing recently to somebody that the 12 steps are a way to get in touch with God and to build this relationship with our higher power. They are not God. They are not the higher power. These are just, it's a set of tools that we can use to tap into that power. And yeah, so all that said, so been growing up, in my teens, 20s, had zero brain cells and didn't know what I was doing. And I actually had real mental health issues and a lot of depression, suicidal ideation, a lot of times where it was easier for me to just not be here and to opt out of life. And I didn't really have any connection or even concern or worry about God or anything greater than me because my life was just so narrowed down to me and my fears and my own selfish concerns and needs, right? So I had a very small world at that time, mentally and therefore physically, because I didn't really expand beyond what I thought were like the confines of my body in this here and now time. And so I didn't really seek any deeper relationship with the higher power or God. And then it got too bad, right? Until it got too off the rails. And then I realized this is just all out of my control. And then I tapped into this, like, there has to be something else out there and this desperation. And that's when it really became Christian. And then I moved to San Diego to go to the Rock Church and then started really developing a relationship with God. And I really enjoyed the reflection of God that was being shown to me in the church by Pastor Miles. And it was something that kind of resonated with me more deeply because it was founded on love and seeing others as God sees them. And that's a really difficult and challenging way to go through life, by the way, because it doesn't give you a whole lot of room for treating people poorly or treating yourself poorly. And it's the easier way to dismiss others, to talk badly about people, to act out of maliciousness and bad intent. And it's actually very much, look at our current president, it's very much honored in these ways where you're meant to show your ego and your power is by diminishing the other people's God-given power and by becoming oppressive. And that would never really spoke to me. And I liked that Pastor Miles spoke about that. He has a book called The Third Way, where he talks about, I'm sorry, the third option. And he talks about we're often so politicized, and this isn't just about politics, this is about everything. There's either a right or wrong, and also there's this paradox of all these things existing at once. And there has to be a third way. And the third option is, of course, Jesus. And there's this people don't like to have to try to navigate that because it's not a clear cut right or wrong, yes or no answer. It really requires us each to individually tap into this God consciousness, this God power, this God relationship, and tap into something that is beyond just our physical reality. But anyway, so all of that to say that I was trying to grow in that way. And what I kept getting faced with, even just in the people in the church, was a very contradictory message where people were still being very judgmental of the LGBTQ community and also very politicized still. They were not willing to look at people beyond their political preference or whatever, or the sexual preference, or what they did for work, or the color of their skin, even. And this is a church where the pastor is a man of color. He's not a white man. And so it was very confusing, and I didn't like that at all. And I was like, surely there must be some community out there that cares about other people and that are not just focused on this prosperity gospel and capitalism in America. And so I kept searching. I'm really grateful for myself at that time. The little brain cells that I had in my, this was still what I was drinking, by the way. I just knew that there was a truer version of God and Jesus out there. And I knew that it existed in this beautiful mystery that I knew as a child growing up in the Catholic Church that was so loving. And I know other people's experiences of the Catholic Church is very different. And those are very true experiences too. This is not to negate that. There's a lot of truth to what other people have experienced. I guess I was just fortunate to not have a lot of that. I grew up in a very strange alternative, possibly not all the way. I don't even think it was actually considered a Catholic church, the thing, but it had a lot of Catholic tradition. Anyway, I started reading I started reading articles from Sojourners, which is like a Christian publication, and I started learning about Jim Wallace, and then I started learning about Tony Campolo. And when I really started learning about Tony Campolo, I just was like on fire. I was like, this is the type of Christianity that I can get behind. And Tony Campolo actually is also who I parasocially began to learn about Shane Claiborne through. And also I had heard about Shane through Jen Hatmaker, who has a book where she mentions him. And I was like, okay, wait a second, I can really get on board. And it changed my relationship to one, religion, and two, to God, because I had my own mental obstacles around religion and even identifying as Christian. I didn't want to tell anybody really because I was like, this is so embarrassing. But also, I just didn't, I was not somebody who was like, I want to be considered a Christian. It was just, it's embarrassing. It's not, even now, it's even less popular. So go figure, I'd get into it when it's less popular. But yeah, and a lot of that, as I was deepening my relationship, attended with God, I was like, yes, this resonates. And it was really filling my soul and becoming more of who I wanted to be and the presence and the type of Christian that I wanted to be. And but I still go to, there's still value in churches around me and clearly in reading the Bible also. And I learned a lot more going more towards the Christian mysticism way. And James Finley has had a huge impact on me in the last year. And for the Center of Action and Contemplation, like all of that is very much where I'm at now. But I'm 12 years ago, as I was a new baby Christian, Tony Campolo had a huge impact on me. And then also that's how I got introduced to Shane Claiborne, and who I now work with at Red Letter Christians with social justice, Jesus and justice, and really advocating for people who are marginalized and really trying to bring back the justice and love that Jesus talks about in the Bible. And like, we do not gloss over the hard parts of and the difficult parts and the tricky and the really conflicting parts of the Bible. We do not tippy-toe around that. We understand that. And I love these people. They're so brilliant. I'm always in awe of the things that they're saying. And that's been an immensely huge part of my life since I've been working with them for about 4 years now. And read anything by Shane Claiborne, please read anything. I really liked The Irresistible Revolution. That was a huge one. So anyway, so all that to say that Tony Campolo passed away. And so he passed away, and he was one of the co-founders of Red Letter Christians. And I had another video where I talk a little bit more about him, but one of the last books that he was working on is coming out or is just being released. And so I got that today in the mail, and it's called Pilgrim by Tony Campolo. And I'm just so grateful for it. Oh, here we go. Yeah, he passed away November 19th, 3 months before his 90th birthday. He had just completed the manuscript for his final book, and before he died, he gave me a bunch of these Red Letter Christians bracelets. And so that is also, I had heard about these and I was like, I want one. And so I got one. Why do I feel like crying? And which he wanted everyone to wear so they could spark conversations and spread the word about this movement. So this bracelet is from Tony and the co-founder of Red Letter Christians. He was passionate about this movement of Jesus and justice, so he was smiling down on us as we continue to do the work. Why am I crying? Okay. Thank you so much for being a critical part of RLC with your prayers and support, Shane and Tony from the other side. And I do genuinely, I feel like I keep using these words like lineage and like almost like heritage or something recently. And I do think it's because I feel so honored to be part of such a beautiful movement, and I wish that I could be a bigger part of it. Absolutely. I'm just doing what I feel called to be. And all it is right now is basically producing a podcast. It's actually just managing the podcast because Shane does a lot of the guest and recording work. All of that to say that I feel deeply in awe again of just how much a life can change when we're willing to let it be changed by God. And I hope that this isn't coming off too evangelical, but rather deeply sincere and from a place of just my deepest gratitude and wonder at how much a life can change once we are willing to give up that life. I recently read a quote. We always talk about dying and being reborn. And a lot of the Christian religion is about this death and rebirth, right? And this resurrection. And somebody recently posted about how, yeah, there has to be a death. And then after death is this decomposition. And so many people try to rebuild with the posing parts of our lives, and it's no, we need to be completely remade, right? We are just using that compost basically to nourish the roots of something brand new. It is not about rebuilding with the remnants of something else, but rather burning that all down and creating something completely new. And I really can say from the depths of my soul that I have been completely remade and I am completely brand new. And this doesn't mean to say that I don't have the personality that I had as a teenager who loved feminist punk and had pink hair and doesn't like being pushed around. That's very much inside me. And it's just colored in this much more, I would say, even more powerful way, because that power comes from a God who I know loves me and loves every human on this earth more than I could ever imagine wanting to. So anyway, and then I got this beautiful little card from Shane. And so I cannot wait to read this book. I will give you guys some more information once. I do just know that he's a funny writer. He's a writer with a lot of depth and weight to what he says. And I just never read something by Tony and not ended up being like, and like really feeling either triggered or questioning my own beliefs around something in this way that inspires more growth. So anyway, I'm just sharing that with you guys. Again, this book is called Pilgrim by Tony Campolo, but I really do recommend reading anything by him. And then also Shane Claiborne, anything from him. And something else that I do really love about what we're doing at Red Letter Christians now and why the podcast is so important is because I didn't realize it until I started working with Red Letter Christians, is how much authority we give to a white man, right? And of course, my own spirituality, my own relationship with God became transformed through a white man. And Shane is also a white man. And again, there's nothing, I love my white men, whatever, that's fine. The point is that we're more than just that. And we need to have more representatives of God in this way. And what we do so beautifully at Red Letter Christians is have such a diverse mix of voices from people of color and women and different backgrounds, different religions, interfaith type of stuff is so important to the healing in this world. And Sorry, I'm just kind of I'm actually just taking a quick break from work and I just wanted to record this. But anyway, I'll let you guys know how this book goes. And I'm just so deeply grateful for my life and for God. And I just felt like sharing that. And I hope that you guys are also pursuing your own spiritual growth, whether that's within the confines of a religion like Christianity, or if that's something that you've made with God on your own, or whatever you call God. So I love you all so very much. Thank you for letting me just babble here a little bit. This is definitely not my fashion choice, but I will wear this because I do hope that it inspires some conversation. Yeah. All right. I love you guys.